Welcome back, Deep Divers. We're diving into something pretty fundamental today, I think, for anyone who's ever been a student or a teacher.
Yeah,
It's all about emotions and learning,
right.
especially in that higher education setting. We'll be exploring this through the spark of learning, energizing the college classroom with the science of emotion
Hmm.
and some other great materials you've shared.
Okay.
We're going to unpack how feelings and learning connect, really work together to create a more engaging, effective experience, whether
Yeah.
you're the one hitting the books or standing at the front of the class.
Yeah. I mean, it's really about moving beyond that idea that learning is just a head thing,
Oh, totally.
recognizing that our hearts, our emotions are right there in the mix, in the whole learning process.
Absolutely.
Mm.
And we're going to try to tease out the practical stuff.
Mm-hmm.
How can we actually use this knowledge to change how we learn and teach?
Right.
The book kicks off with a story about a professor, Michael Fleming, who did something totally unexpected. He wasn't afraid to bring real emotion into his teaching, even staging a moment of mock terror to illustrate a point.
Wow.
That really throws you off,
Yeah.
because we usually think of academia as this super serious place.
Right, right.
So it makes you wonder if maybe we've been missing out on a really powerful tool all along.
That's what's so intriguing about that opening story. It's like it challenges that image of the classroom as this purely neutral, sterile space.
Yeah,
It suggests that the emotional climate is a huge factor in how learning actually happens.
exactly. But before we go any further, let's be super clear about what this deep dive is not about.
Right.
We're not saying every lecture needs to be a stand-up routine or that we should shy away from tough
Oh,
topics.
for sure.
Learning means grappling with difficult ideas, pushing through stuff that's not always inherently thrilling.
Yeah.
We're not about making things easy, but about energizing students to actually tackle those challenges head on and work harder.
Absolutely. It's about finding that internal spark, not just entertainment.
That's the key. And ideally, every student will be driven purely by intrinsic curiosity, but let's be real.
Right.
Lots of students are dealing with real-life pressures, jobs, family, finances, you name it.
Mm-hmm.
Tapping into emotions can be a huge boost, even when that initial spark of pure interest isn't there.
Yeah.
We're looking for those levers, those emotional levers. That can make a difference regardless of what's going on outside the classroom.
So even for students who are laser focused on career goals, understanding this stuff can help them learn better and ultimately be more successful.
Exactly. Now, when we talk about the science of emotion, the book uses the term affective science in a really broad way.
Okay.
It's not just those big, obvious emotions like happiness or anger,
Right.
right? It's also those subtler states we call moods,
Mhm.
like when you're feeling down or a little bit off. And then there are our basic drives, wanting food, wanting a sense of accomplishment, and then there are those forces that propel us toward goals. That's our motivation.
Right.
The author acknowledges that defining all of this is kind of a moving target.
Mm-hmm.
But for us, we're looking at anything that adds that emotional layer to learning.
Mm-hmm.
Like joy is an emotion, feeling down, that's a mood. Really wanting to grasp a concept, that's a drive. And feeling pumped to study for a test, that's motivation.
So basically a whole range of affective states all playing a role in the learning process.
Right. And what's fascinating is that while these things feel different, neuroscience is showing that they often tap into some of the same underlying biological mechanisms in the brain.
Yeah, that's wild.
Okay, so let's talk about that brain stuff. The book stresses the importance of moving past what it calls emotion blobology,
Emotion blobology.
that old school idea that each emotion has its own little spot in the brain.
Right, like a one-to-one mapping.
Yeah, and it turns out it's way more complex than that. Emotions are a whole brain phenomenon involving networks across the entire brain,
It's more like an interconnected web than isolated compartments.
like an orchestra,
Yeah.
right? Not just one instrument playing solo.
Perfect analogy.
So happiness, sadness, fear, they don't live in isolated circuits. They emerge from all these different brain regions working together. And this connectedness isn't just about distinct emotions either. The book suggests that emotions, moods, even those drives like hunger or boredom, might all involve some of the same neural systems. What usually differs is the intensity of the feeling, how long it lasts, and how directly it's linked to what's going on around you. Think about it. You're feeling hungry, you're bored with a task, Both might push you to look for something more stimulating.
Yeah.
Maybe you reach for a snack or get distracted by something else.
Right.
Or think about the joy of finally understanding a complex concept versus that quiet satisfaction of getting something right on a quiz.
Mhm.
Both of those could involve those dopamine reward pathways in your brain. So the key insight here is that emotions are not just these neat little boxes in the brain.
Right.
They're this complex interplay across the whole brain, impacting learning in all sorts of ways.
That really highlights how interconnected our emotional experiences are at that neurological level.
Now, on the flip side, the book also warns us about neuromyths, those catchy but often misleading neuroscience claims that pop up in education.
Oh, yeah, like those brain-based learning fads.
Exactly. Like that study claiming lectures put brains in a state similar to sleep.
Oh, yeah, I remember hearing about that.
It sparked a ton of debate about teaching methods.
But it turned out the reality was much more nuanced, wasn't it?
Totally. That dramatic graph everyone was sharing,
Mm-hmm.
it was measuring skin conductance, how much someone was sweating, not actual brain activity,
Oh.
and only in one single student. So yeah, skin sweating can tell you about physiological arousal,
Yeah.
but that's a far cry from measuring cognitive engagement.
That's a big difference. It's a classic example of how neuroscience can be misinterpreted when applied to education.
Right, and it emphasizes how important critical thinking is when we hear these neuroscience claims, especially in our field.
Absolutely. It's not just about whether something sounds scientific, but whether it's actually valid and useful as an educational strategy.
And that's not the only concern. The book points out some practical challenges with directly applying neuroscience in the classroom. There's this huge leap from a controlled lab setting, with those fMRI scanners, to a real classroom with a bunch of different learners.
Right. It's a very different context.
Yeah. Knowing a brain region lights up when someone reads doesn't tell you the best way to teach reading.
Right.
And some educators worry that this neuroscience hype might pull funding away from solid behavioral research.
That makes sense. Behavioral research often provides more direct guidance for teaching, doesn't it?
Totally. It's more about what's actually happening in the classroom, not just what's going on inside our heads. And then the tools we use to study the brain, they're powerful, but they have limitations. Take fMRI, functional magnetic resonance imaging. It's amazing for seeing brain activity by measuring blood flow. But there's this myth out there, that we only use 10% of our brains.
Oh, yeah. The idea that unlocking that other 90% would give us superpowers or something.
Exactly.
Mm.
But the truth is, our brains are active all over, just at different levels, depending on what we're doing. If you were watching a movie trailer in an fMRI scanner, you'd see activity in your visual cortex, processing the images, temporal lobes handling the words, emotional centers reacting to the drama,
Wow.
and the front of your brain making sense of it all.
It's a whole brain experience, not just a tiny fraction working.
Exactly. So our brains are constantly buzzing, not mostly dormant.
Right.
And because brain activity is so widespread during almost any task, fMRI studies use what's called the subtraction method.
Okay.
They compare brain activity during the task they're studying to a similar control task and subtract the common activity to see what's specific.
So they're trying to isolate the unique brain activity associated with a particular task.
Exactly. But if a brain region is involved in both tasks, it might look like it's not important, even though it is.
That's a really important consideration, especially for complex skills like those involved in learning.
Yeah, we can't oversimplify what brain scans can tell us about learning.
Right.
But don't get discouraged. There's huge potential for educational neuroscience, especially when educators who understand the real-world learning environment and neuroscientists who understand the brain team up. Educators can harness the public's fascination with neuroscience to get support for their work, and neuroscientists gain insights into how the brain actually works in learning contexts, which can strengthen their research proposals.
It's a win-win for both fields.
It's a much-needed bridge between the lab and the classroom.
Yeah.
And for students, insights from neuroscience can be really useful. Take synaptic plasticity, the idea that the connections between brain cells get stronger with experience. Research suggests that diving deep into a topic is better than just skimming the surface of many.
So quality over quantity.
Exactly.
Right.
Repetition, really engaging with the material, that builds stronger neural pathways. That points to the value of testing yourself, looking at a concept from different perspectives, actively explaining what you're learning, instead of just passively taking it in. The takeaway: deep learning, through repetition and active engagement, builds stronger neural pathways than shallow exposure to many topics.
Makes sense.
Here's another key connection. Neuroscience is showing that things we often separate in education, motivation, emotion, social connections, and learning itself are all linked in the brain.
Oh, wow, that's fascinating.
It's all tied together through the reward system and that neurotransmitter dopamine. This really backs up the book's main point, that emotions are fundamental to learning.
So we need to treat all those elements as interconnected, not isolated components.
Absolutely, it's a more holistic view of learning. So we know emotions matter, but how exactly do they affect how we learn? Let's break it down, starting with attention. Emotions are incredibly good at grabbing our attention. They help us prioritize information that matters to us.
Okay.
Neuroscientist Joseph Ledoux, he showed that when it comes to threats, there are direct pathways from our senses to the amygdala.
The amygdala, the brain's emotional center.
Right. Triggering a response, even before our conscious mind fully processes what's happening.
So it's like an automatic, instinctive response to potential danger.
Exactly. We can't pay attention to everything all the time, and our brains are designed to focus on things that could affect our survival.
Right. Makes sense.
And emotions signal what's important to us, what we care about, so they often take priority.
So emotional information gets fast-tracked, bypassing that slower, more deliberate processing.
Exactly. Next, memory consolidation. Ever notice how you remember those really emotional events super vividly? Like those flashbulb memories?
Oh, absolutely. Like where you were when you heard about a major news event.
Yeah, exactly. The science is still exploring this,
Yeah.
but it's clear that emotional arousal strengthens how our brains encode memories.
It's like the brain is saying, hey, this is important. Don't forget this.
Right, it makes them stick.
Yeah.
Now, motivation. Emotions fuel motivation big time. The book uses this funny example of a cat with a secret second family.
Okay.
Suddenly he's acting all different, staying out late, acting mysterious.
Living a double life.
Yeah, all driven by this surge of emotions, maybe desire, maybe a bit of guilt.
Right. That's such a relatable way to show how powerful emotions can be in shaping our behavior.
And that emotional energy often doesn't stay confined to just that one focus. So that cat might suddenly become more motivated in other areas too, like chasing that laser pointer with way more enthusiasm.
So it's a spillover effect, where a strong emotional state can energize other goal-directed activities.
Exactly. But motivation isn't just about those individual intense emotions,
Right.
right? Our overall mood matters too. Research shows that we use our current mood as information when evaluating a task.
Okay.
So if you're in a positive mood, you're more optimistic about things, how tough something will be, your ability to handle it, and you're more likely to persevere.
So positive mood is like a mental boost, amplifying our confidence and motivation.
Exactly. And it's not just mental. People in positive moods show greater effort mobilization. Like their bodies get ready to work harder. You can see it in their cardiovascular activity.
Wow. So our emotions really do have a physical impact.
And negative moods tend to have the opposite effect.
Right.
We feel less capable, less willing to put in the effort. It really highlights how our general emotional state can impact motivation and behavior in subtle but really powerful ways.
Yeah.
Okay, this is where it gets really interesting. Emotions can spread through social networks.
Wait, really? Like a virus?
Kind of. Remember that Facebook study where they changed the emotional content people saw in their news feeds?
Oh, yeah, I remember that. It caused quite a stir.
Totally. Big ethical debate. The effect was small, but it did suggest that emotions can be transmitted even online.
It's kind of unsettling, actually.
Yeah, it raised a lot of questions. And this effect is even stronger in a physical classroom setting. The book calls it affective crossover, where a teacher's emotions affect their students.
Okay.
Research shows that teachers who say they feel more positive emotions are more likely to be clear and engaging, give good examples, and connect material to real life.
Mm-hmm.
So the teacher's emotional state actually has a direct impact on students, beyond just how well they teach.
So it's not just about what they teach, but how they feel while teaching it.
Right. And teachers experiencing negative emotions, like frustration, are less likely to do those helpful things. But there's more. One study that looked at emotions in real time found that students' feelings of anger and enjoyment were predicted not just by what the teacher did in the classroom, but also by how they perceived the teacher's emotions. And here's the key. Perceived teacher emotions. They directly influenced student emotions, even after considering the impact of just the teacher's actions. It's like a true emotional contagion, a direct link between how the teacher feels and how the students feel.
That highlights how powerful a teacher's emotional presence can be. It shapes the whole emotional landscape of the classroom, which in turn affects how students learn.
Exactly. And speaking of the learning environment, the power of social connection can't be ignored. This long-term study at Hamilton College, they looked at what truly predicted student satisfaction and success after graduation.
Okay.
And guess what? The biggest factors weren't famous professors or fancy buildings.
I'm intrigued. What was it?
It was social connections, having close friends, supportive mentors, and belonging to meaningful groups on campus.
That's surprising, but also kind of not. Those relationships really do shape the whole college experience.
Right. The takeaway. Strong social connections are crucial for satisfaction and success in college. And social neuroscientist James Cohen, his work supports this. He studied the calming effect of holding hands during stressful situations.
Oh, interesting.
His message is, we are here. We are here.
So simple, but so powerful.
It shows how social support helps us deal with stress.
That feeling of connection and support can really affect our stress levels, and that impacts our ability to learn.
Absolutely. And then there's mimetic desire or goal contagion. Basically, we're often drawn to things we see other people wanting.
Okay.
One study showed that people rated objects as more desirable when they saw pictures of hands reaching for them.
So seeing someone else want something makes us want it more.
Yeah, and this was linked to activity in the brain's reward circuits. So putting it all together, effective crossover, the stress-reducing power of connection, and mimetic desire, it shows that we are deeply social creatures, and our emotions and motivations are influenced by those around us.
Right. We can't ignore the social dimension of learning.
Exactly. It's crucial in any learning environment.
It makes creating a classroom climate that promotes positive social interaction and belonging just as important as the content itself.
Absolutely. So let's talk about you, the instructor, and how to cultivate a positive emotional environment. The book mentions thin slices.
Thin slices.
Those quick first impressions students form about their teachers, often within minutes.
Oh, right. Snap judgments.
Yeah. Traits like appearing active, confident, likable, and supportive, they're surprisingly good at predicting how effective students think you'll be.
Wow. So those initial perceptions really matter.
They set the tone. So consciously embodying those positive traits from day one can really boost positive emotional contagion.
Okay, so what are some practical tips for doing that?
Well, first, make sure you're rested and feeling your best. Project energy through your voice, move around the room, make eye contact, and vary the pace of your delivery.
Right. Those are all good tips for engaging an audience.
And most importantly, be present, truly present when you're teaching.
Be in the moment, fully engaged.
Exactly. That brings us to mindful teaching.
Mindful teaching.
It's about being totally present, paying close attention not just to the material, but to how students are reacting.
So being attuned to the dynamics of the classroom.
Yeah. And research suggests that mindfulness practices for both teachers and students can actually improve learning and satisfaction.
Wow, that's interesting.
We're seeing this in science courses, humanities seminars, where instructors use mindfulness to help students engage with complex or even emotionally tough topics.
Okay.
The book also talks about emotional authenticity, being genuine with yourself and your students. It gives an example of a pregnant teacher who honestly answered a student's question about her pregnancy in a health class.
Oh, that's a potentially tricky situation.
Right. But she turned it into a learning moment built on trust.
That ability to be genuine and address the human element can really build rapport.
Totally. Another aspect of mindful teaching is meta instructing, actually pausing during an activity to reflect on how it's going, and even involving students in adjusting the instruction if needed.
Oh, so like getting feedback from students in real time.
Yeah, it shows that you're paying attention to their experience and that you value their feedback.
So it's a more responsive, collaborative approach.
Exactly. Now let's lighten things up a bit with humor.
Okay.
The book talks about how humor can make you seem more enthusiastic. And there's this theory called the benign violation theory that says we find things funny when they violate our expectations in a harmless way.
So the unexpected twist that doesn't actually threaten us.
Exactly.
Wow.
But there are some guidelines for using humor effectively. Ideally, it should be relevant to the course to aid memory.
Right. Tie it to the material.
And it should feel natural, not forced. If you're not naturally funny, you can always incorporate cartoons or videos.
That's a good idea.
But a word of caution, humor can be risky. We have to be super mindful of inclusivity and avoid jokes that rely on stereotypes or might make anyone feel excluded.
Yeah, humor can be tricky in a diverse classroom. It's important to be sensitive.
Even gentle teasing between instructors and students should be done carefully. If you're ever not sure if a joke is okay, get a second opinion.
Good advice. Better safe than sorry.
Okay, shifting gears now. Let's talk about projecting confidence, credibility, and competence. They're all connected. Confidence makes you seem more credible, and credibility is built on three things: character, caring, and competence.
So students need to see you as trustworthy, caring, and knowledgeable.
Exactly. And the most straightforward way to show competence is actually having a strong grasp of your subject.
Makes sense. You can't fake expertise.
Right. The more you've engaged with the material, the more confident and competent you'll appear.
So thorough preparation is key. It's the foundation of perceived expertise.
Absolutely. And to build credibility, it's super important to follow through on your word. Your syllabus, it's like a contract.
Right. It sets expectations.
Yeah. So avoid making sudden changes to workloads or deadlines. That erodes trust.
Consistency and transparency are so important.
Now let's dive into immediacy. These are behaviors that show you're genuinely interested in your students, the material, and the whole learning process.
Okay.
Verbally, this includes using humor, sharing personal stories that are relevant and positive, giving genuine compliments, and using inclusive language like "we" when talking about course concepts.
So it's about creating a sense of connection and shared purpose in the classroom.
Non-verbally, immediacy is about making eye contact, smiling, having an open posture, moving around the room, and varying your voice. And here's a simple but effective tip. Tell your students you're genuinely interested in the subject.
Just be upfront about your passion.
Yeah, research shows that even just telling students their instructor is a volunteer can boost their motivation because they assume you must be truly enthusiastic about it.
That's interesting. It's about modeling that enthusiasm.
Exactly. Okay, now let's talk about knowledge emotions. These are emotions tied to learning, like interest, curiosity, flow, and even confusion.
Okay, so the emotions that drive learning itself.
Exactly. They're the fuel. First, interest. Especially in required courses, sparking that initial interest is crucial.
Yeah, you got to get them hooked somehow.
Right. One powerful tool is making the material personally relevant, like a biology professor talking about the ingredients in their students' favorite foods. Or using surprising or intriguing examples that connect to things they already care about, like pop culture or current events.
Right.
Even just framing a problem in an unexpected way can get them interested. And it's not just about that initial hook. You need to maintain interest. One example from the book is a professor who organized a beast feast where students tried dishes made from insects.
Wow, that's creative.
Right.
Yeah.
Totally memorable, and it directly connected to the course material.
That's a great way to make a lasting impression.
Now, curiosity, the wick in the candle of learning.
I like that.
Curiosity is strongest when you're not totally clueless about something, but you don't know the answer either.
Yeah.
It's that gap that motivates you.
That feeling of, I almost get it, but not quite.
Yeah. Brain scans show that curiosity activates the reward pathways in the brain.
So our brains are wired to enjoy that process of discovery.
Exactly. And even making a wrong guess when you're curious strengthens memory for the right answer later. It's that inherent desire to master something new that drives curiosity.
It's about that aha moment, the satisfaction of figuring something out.
Puzzles and mysteries are great tools for fostering curiosity. Puzzles offer quicker resolution, while mysteries can keep students engaged for longer.
So give them something to figure out, to unravel.
Exactly. Then there's flow. That feeling of being totally absorbed in an activity where the challenge is just right for your skill level, you have clear goals and immediate feedback, and you feel in control.
Oh yeah, that feeling of being in the zone.
Game-based learning can often trigger flow, making students feel like they're learning and enjoying it, even if the link to traditional measures of learning isn't always clear. But even if it just boosts interest and engagement, that's huge.
Creating those opportunities for flow can make learning more enjoyable and engaging.
Now, here's a surprising one. Confusion.
Confusion.
Yeah, used strategically, confusion can actually lead to deeper learning. By asking challenging questions, presenting contradictory information, or holding back answers for a bit, you can make students think harder and make new connections.
So it's about disrupting their existing understanding and forcing them to grapple with new ideas.
Exactly. Even giving a pretest on material they haven't learned yet can prime their brains for learning by showing them what they don't know.
Yeah.
And regularly checking for understanding with quick activities like a 1-minute paper can give you valuable insights into where they're really at.
Right. It's about going beyond surface level understanding and really probing their comprehension.
So we've talked about sparking interest. Now, how do we keep that flame burning and help students persist through challenges? We're moving from initial engagement to long-term focus and minimizing procrastination. That's where achievement emotions come in. These can be positive or negative, activating or deactivating.
Okay, break that down for me.
So positive activating emotions like enjoyment, hope, are linked to motivation,
Right.
while negative deactivating emotions like boredom can really derail it.
Yeah.
Paekran's control value theory is helpful here. It says that students' beliefs about how much control they have over their learning outcomes and how valuable they think the material is, these beliefs really shape their emotions, their motivation, and ultimately their learning.
So feeling in control and seeing value in what you're learning is key.
Exactly. If they have both, they tend to have those positive activating emotions and are more engaged. So how do we maximize that sense of control and value for students? Offering choices in assignments, like the topic or the format, can increase both.
Giving them some autonomy over their learning.
Yeah, and highlighting the usefulness of what they're learning, showing how it connects to their lives and future careers, tapping into that self-relevance again.
Right.
You can also emphasize the transcendent purpose of learning.
Transcendent purpose.
Yeah, connecting it to bigger goals or its impact on society. Providing opportunities for transformative learning, like service learning projects or community-based research, can be incredibly powerful. And then there are models like reacting to the past, where students take on historical roles and engage in debates, making learning a tool to achieve their goals within the simulation.
So they're not just learning about history, they're actively participating in it.
Exactly. And finally, self-regulation. Your ability to align your behavior with your goals.
Okay.
Things like cognitive reappraisal, where you consciously reframe boring tasks as important for your bigger goals, can boost motivation. Even practicing math problems can feel more worthwhile if you see it as crucial for your career aspirations.
So it's about finding the meaning and purpose in even those seemingly mundane tasks.
Right. Encouraging students to take on an expert's perspective on the material can help too. Attributional retraining is another powerful technique. This is about getting students to attribute their successes and failures to things they can control, like their effort and strategies, rather than things they can't control, like innate talent or the teacher's difficulty. This has been linked to better grades and enjoyment of learning.
So helping them develop a more empowering view of their learning.
Exactly. And cultivating a growth mindset, the belief that you can get smarter through effort and learning.
Right.
This helps students be more resilient and persistent.
It's about believing in your ability to grow and improve.
And then there's procrastination. A simple but effective strategy is breaking down big assignments into smaller chunks with frequent deadlines. This makes it less overwhelming and forces students to spread out their work.
That's a classic time management technique.
Okay, so we've covered all these great strategies, but what about when emotions create problems in the classroom? Things like disruptive behavior or test anxiety.
Yeah, those are real challenges.
Disruptive behavior creates a negative environment for everyone. And test anxiety, it's a huge hurdle for many students. It's cognitive worry and physical symptoms, and it can actually hurt working memory.
Wow.
And even activate brain regions associated with physical pain.
That's incredible. It's not just feeling stressed, it's actually experiencing discomfort.
Yeah, and sadly, this can lead students to avoid entire fields of study.
It's crucial to address these negative emotions to create a supportive learning environment.
Absolutely. To deal with test anxiety, we can use low-stakes assessments throughout the semester, be super clear about exam expectations, maybe even drop the lowest exam grade, and use group quizzes as a review tool to reduce pressure. For all types of assignments, clear instructions, rubrics given out beforehand, and examples of good work can reduce anxiety.
So transparency and clear communication are key.
Now, psychological reactance is when students push back against threats to their autonomy.
So they resist when they feel controlled.
Right. Polite, legitimate requests from teachers they trust are less likely to trigger this. Building rapport early on is crucial to prevent destructive group dynamics.
So relationships matter. It's about building that foundation of trust and respect.
And emphasizing the rewards of learning and your expertise, instead of just relying on your authority.
Being a guide, not just an enforcer.
Exactly. And then there's social loafing and group work. To prevent this, be very clear about individual tasks, keep teams together longer, allow for self-selection when possible, and maybe use segmented feedback on individual work rather than just end-of-term peer evaluations.
So making sure everyone is accountable and contributing.
And guide students on how to delegate tasks and monitor each other's progress with a clear way for you to step in if needed.
Providing structure and support for effective group work.
Lastly, we,